One of the biggest books of the past decade is The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. It tells the story of two teenagers with cancer, Hazel Grace Lancaster and Augustus Waters, as they go to Amsterdam to try and track down Hazel's favourite author. Just kidding, it's about Augustus's and Hazel's developing romance. I will be trying not to spoil any of the plot points in this book, but it's a teen contemporary romance. Not much happens. This book focuses a lot on the protagonist's diagnoses with cancer and how it relates to them being teenagers. They just want to live their life. Understandable, really. I don't know how reliable this statistic is, but allegedly 1 in 2 of us are meant to get cancer during our lives. So you might not necessarily know someone with cancer, but you would have known of someone who had or who has cancer. I can't say anything about how accurate this representation is of cancer in this book and the sort of depression that comes with it, particularly for our main character, Hazel, as I have never suffered from cancer before, hopefully never will do. Now, before we go off on a tangent, here are some of my thoughts while rereading this book, actually, because I read this book a while back and I did really enjoy it. Anyway, here is the thoughts while reading segment. The pretentiousness really starts from the first page. Like, you couldn't have said when I was 16. You had to put in the winter of my 17th year. I don't know why I'm speaking in that sort of like, I'm trying to mimic the Queen accent, but the point still stands. It's very pretentious. Literally on page 7, Hazel's mother pulls a whole, you're a teenager, you've got to go out and live your life, whole sort of boring rubbish. This is gonna be a long ride. I'm so tired. One of the first descriptions we get of Augustus, who is our love interest, is muscular. Like, seriously, why are all these flipping love interests described as muscular? Why aren't they just like average? But I'm not even finished yet. This is the best part. This is real classic young adult literature right here. Hazel says, "Why are you looking at me like that?" Augustus half smiled. "Because you're beautiful." This is page 60. I'm not saying that you can't instantly meet someone and find them attractive, but the fact that Hazel described him as really hot just a few pages earlier makes me start to suspect that it might be insta-love. Hello, nice to meet you. I'm Dr. Chemical Penguin, and I'm going to tell you how to diagnose insta-love. Are all characters instantly attracted to one another? Do they already seem to know things about each other after having known each other for 2 seconds? Do they start thinking about kissing each other on page 36 of a 300-page novel? Do they start almost instantly declaring their love to one another? See page 150, Augustus saying, "I'm in love with you." If you answered yes to any of those questions, there's a very strong possibility that your book is an example of insta-love. I hate it. I actually hate it. And what makes it worse is that I actually enjoyed it when I first read it. Right, so while all I seem to have been doing is slamming this book, I did find this insanely relatable passage. The other thing about Caitlin, I guess, was that it could never feel natural to talk to her. Any attempts to feign normal social interactions were just depressing because it was so glaringly obvious that everyone I spoke to for the rest of my life would feel awkward and self-conscious around me. I really related to that. We've jumped ahead a little bit to page 71, and Augustus quotes something to Hazel, and she says, "Not bad, bit pretentious." Hazel, matey, what right do you have calling things pretentious? That's right, you don't have any right. You just do not. If you've ever wondered what happens when you mix the word pretentious with 2 teenagers who happen to have cancer, sprinkle in a little bit of insta-love, and marinate for 300 pages, you get this book. The first thing I noticed with this book is how underdeveloped the main relationship is. John Green is a fella who can obviously write, so he did not need to write insta-love into this book. Reading this book in 2022 has just shown me how aggressively average it is. Saying that though, in 2012, when it came out, I can see how everyone thought that it was really, really good because it's a good introduction to the young adult age category, but it's not anything special. Another thing to note, all of the main teenagers in this book seem to share the same views about death and existentialism, which is quite strange. It's mainly our pretentious duo of Hazel and Augustus bouncing off each other, but sometimes Isaac, Augustus's friend, jumps in and will say something. I don't know if John Green meant to do this as a sort of way to flesh out these characters, but it felt very obvious that these characters were just characters rather than people in their own right. The characters in this book didn't feel very realistic, they just felt like a way to make a commentary on death and existence. I didn't enjoy this book as much as I did when I first read it. I don't think it holds up as a book. There are lots of better, more up-to-date books than this one out there that do a little bit more than what this does. But from 2012 perspective, and when I first read it, it's a really good way for getting into the young adult age category. But objectively as a book, it's just not as good as it comes across as. It's very, middle of the road, but I would still recommend it for certain cases. That is the end of my discussion of this book. What do you think about it? Let me know if you've read this book or want to read this book. Talk to me about it in the comments below. If there are any other books that you want me to read and discuss, leave those in the comments as well, and I will read them. So thank you for sitting through this video. I will see you next time. Have a nice day, night, existence. Have a nice existence. This is all about existence. Have a nice existence. Goodbye.